Welcome back to another episode of In the Paddock with Alex and Taki. And I'm here today with Bob Ball and his very beautiful vintage 2002. Bob, good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into high performance driving, even racing. How long you've been doing this?
Well, about 30 years ago, I had a 66 GTO and I went to an autocross and I was looking at a 2002 and I was like, well, that's a pretty neat car. And I was like, are they still good? And my buddy says, well, that car is always good for FTD, which is fastest time of day, in case you didn't know. And I was like, oh, really? So I started looking at that, and well, like, long story short, I ended up selling a goat and getting a 2002 and started autocross. And then somebody said, well, you should try, doing some driver's ed. And this is like an 87. I took this TII that I bought up in Williamsport, which was really rusty, and we did a bunch of rust repair on it. But we went to the Watkins Glen, and that was pretty much it. I was hooked at that point.
Well, tell us about this car here.
This car, the cage was done by a guy in Holliston, Massachusetts. It was a car that my father bought just because it came up, and the guy was going to Iraq in 91, so he was getting rid of everything. So this car actually sat out behind my shop for 16 years before anybody looked at it. When I did look at it, I found it had a close ratio steering box, which is kind of rare. And it was really nice inside, and boy, did it have a cheater motor. So I did the restoration on it. I did the rust repair, and I sent it out in cage. And I did the paint and the suspension, and I've just been using it. It's fairly normal. We built it to go run with the Enduro series in Champ, and the Enduro series, as such, then I'm not really worried about the points, but we wanted it to be easy to be in. We wanted it so you could share the car, and we wanted it to be reliable. So we didn't overbuild the car. It's pretty. It's a true vintage car.
It's beautiful. Do you know how much it weighs?
It is 2425 with me in it, and I'm 190.
Wow. And what's the horsepower it puts out?
It's about 150 at the crank.
Okay.
So it's not a lot.
How about the wheel and tire setup? What do we got going on?
These are 14-inch by 6.5 off of an E30 318. Ideally, I run 13s, but when you run with the Champ series, you have to run treadwear 200, and that's the size wheel that works.
Wow, you've got a fuel cell.
So we got an oversized fuel cell, which is arguably one of the neatest parts about it. If you're going to run it in Champ, it'll never be legal, it'll never be fast, but they did a turbo, the 2002 turbo had 19 gallons if I wanted it, so I can argue that in that chassis they put a 19-gallon tank, and that would be, if I ever won, that might work.
Wow. Now, was this the original color of this car?
No, this is a custom color.
Why blue?
Well, because my other one's been orange, and I don't know, I just like the blue. I'm a color guy. I go in, I start looking through the books, and but what's funny is about this, you had noticed this is supposed to be a square taillight car, but everybody always says the roundy ones are better, so I just put roundy taillights on it.
So how about the number 145? Any significance?
Well, my other one's 45. So my other cars, I've always been 45. So I made this one 145, and the next one will be 245.
That makes sense.
I'm building one more, same cage, already done.
Wow. So what would be your best advice for someone who might want to get into high performance driving?
Well, you got to do it in something that you're passionate about. I've always loved the 2002s. They're very simple to work on. These days, I think you can still find inexpensive 2002s. Maybe an E30 is safer, and parts are more readily available than are for these, because these have been bought up by collectors and niche types. But still, do something that you're passionate about. You always turn around, damn it, I like the looks of my car. You don't like that, how are you going to enjoy driving it? But and also, it's got to be, you got to be able to walk away from it. You got to be able to leave it at the track. If it doesn't work out that day for you, don't have so much money tied into it, it's going to wreck your life.
That's a tough one. All right, well, thank you, Bob, for sharing this with us.
Thank you. Thanks for stopping by.